Welcome back, Soulfull Society, to Soulfull of Wellness,
the multi-generational podcast brought to you by two functional imperfectionists
and certified coaches
who deliver tips to live your most authentic, balanced, and anxiety-free life.
Today, we're excited to welcome to the pod Dr. Fred Moss to have an unconventional conversation about healing. In today's episode, you will learn how you can heal your own mental health with just 3 minutes a day, the 2-step process to immediately assist yourself when you're feeling out of balance, and so much more. Dr. Fred Moss is a licensed psychiatrist who has served the mental health industry for nearly 4 decades. Disenchanted with the pervasive medicate to fix all that ails strategy, Dr. Fred began taking a new approach with his patients to assist them in reclaiming their lives from psychiatric diagnoses and medication to a more balanced, holistic treatment plan.
Dr. Fred has since dedicated his efforts to establishing his brand, Welcome to Humanity, as a home base of sorts for his work as a speaker, coach, and advisor as a non-diagnosing psychiatrist.
Dr. Fred is also the host of the inspiring Welcome to Humanity podcast, a show that explores what it means to be human and how to live an extraordinary life. In addition to that, he's also the author of Find Your True Voice and Creative 8, Healing Through Creativity and Self-Expression.
Check out our show notes for this episode because Dr. Fred has gifted our Soulfull Society some really juicy tidbits. Welcome, Dr. Fred. We're so happy to have you on the pod today.
It's really great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Wonderful.
We are too.
Yeah, I've read a lot about you and excited to finally have you here and really excited for all the nuggets of wisdom you can share with our listeners, the Soulfull Society today.
It sounds great. Let's make it happen.
All right, we know that you are a well-published author. Your book, The Creative 8, Healing Through Creativity and Self-Expression. We are absolutely intrigued and would love to give you the platform to talk about the Creative 8, how we and our listeners can use it in our daily lives to improve our well-being.
All right. Well, it's going to take a little bit of a story to get to how the Creative 8 even rose to the top. But, basically, we're looking at 64 years of me being earmarked as a healer. From the moment that I arrived on this planet in 1958, that's what that was being called for. I had a family, I had 2 older brothers. There was some chaos, disarray in the family. And little Freddie was going to come and bring some joy and connection to this family. That's my understanding. They're kind of waiting for me to pop out and bring for joy and communication. And that's what I did for the first several years. I was a rolling bundle of joy, I'm pretty sure, until my brothers got irritated with me. That's a different story altogether. And I really became enchanted with the whole idea of communication. And I really wanted to learn more than anything else through schooling or through education or through being with people, how to communicate effectively. I could see that when the adults talked to each other, things would happen. And I just thought, well, that's what life is about, is communicating. And I still believe that, by the way. And, when I got to school, I was disappointed that that isn't what was happening in kindergarten. And then, I thought, oh, maybe the big kids will teach me how to communicate. So I was precocious. I hung out with bigger kids that they weren't that good at communicating either. Then there was junior high, then there was high school, then there was college. And each time it actually looked like communication was becoming more and more contracted. That, instead of having an open discourse, we were being asked to just imitate whatever the teacher or professor was doing and then regurgitate it back as exact as we could. And that was called being a good student, but that's not called communication. So I began to get a little bit frustrated with that whole thing and finally just dropped out of college. And, when I dropped out of college, I did what any self-respecting young man would do in the late 70s when they dropped out of college. I boarded a Greyhound bus and went to Berkeley, California so I could find myself. There, I actually did have a summer of finding myself, but unsustainable. And eventually popped back to school. My parents convinced me I should get a degree. It was this up and coming field called computer science. And there was this thing called a computer at the University of Michigan. So, I went back to the University of Michigan and with the idea of learning how to run a computer or how to be a computer guy. And that was terrible too. So I eventually dropped out again. Now, over time, I got a job. My mom did get me an application for a job as a child care worker at a state mental health facility for adolescents. And that's where I began to communicate and heal folks. That's because I became healed. I would have these conversations with these kids, we call them kids, but 6 or 7 years younger than me. And we would just both heal. Like we just, I was getting paid to actually have wonderful conversations and learn about people. But I didn't like the way psychiatry was treating these kids. So I decided that I would eventually go back to school one more time and become a psychiatrist and bring communication and connection back to the psychiatric field. And sure enough, over the next 13 years, I've completed my undergraduate degree, went to medical school in Northwestern in downtown Chicago, and then got my residency and my fellowship. And voila, I'm a psychiatrist. And, I'm now a well-trained conventional psychiatrist. But psychiatry had gone through a significant change in those 13 years, and that was that Prozac was initiated and it became a biological field, a field that was based on chemical imbalance, a field that was based on the idea if you're not feeling well, that's your problem. If you're depressed, that's your problem. There's something wrong with you. If you're anxious, there's something wrong with you. I still don't think of course there's nothing wrong with being depressed in a depressing situation. Of course, there's nothing wrong with being anxious when there's something to be nervous about. I mean, it's okay to be anxious these days, for instance. So I hung in there through conventional psychiatry, but, again, psychiatry became more and more contracted. People were not coming to a psychiatrist in order to communicate. They were coming to get toxic medications given to them. And I hated giving toxic medications to my patients. So even though I have written over 100,000 prescriptions in my life, each and every one of them was kind of a soul sacrifice in its own right. Eventually, I decided that I was going to do something radical and started taking my patients actually off their medicines. And they got better. They got way better. They got reliably better. And their diagnosis and their, tended to disappear, actually. The thing that they thought they were taking medicine for wasn't even there. And it was an exciting finding, but I wanted to shake the world. I wanted to take people by the collar and say, hey, we're doing this all wrong. But I didn't do that. I instead, kind of let it mellow. Oh, I did do that a little bit, but I, got less and less violent over time, and eventually got to the space where, I became like a healer. The undoctor was one of the names that I received. So as the undoctor, I undiagnose, unmedicate, and then undoctrinate people, take people out of the mental health field. But people ask me, what are you going to do instead? That's what everyone asks. Oh, okay, if you don't do that, what are you going to do instead when people come to you? It's well, I noticed that when people do creative things, when people do art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, gardening, when they do those creative things, these uncomfortable feelings, these intolerable feelings tend to disappear. They tend to dissolve. And eventually I decided that there was about 8 things that could work. Art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, gardening are the 8. And then I was well, let's just write a book called The Creative 8, where I can tell people that if you just activate creativity 1 minute a day in 3 of these fields, and that's all you have to do, by the way. So pick up a paintbrush or a drawing, or pick up a pen and a coffee can, and do a little bit of art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, and gardening, just for a minute. Just tap it each day. And while you're tapping it, you're going to see that your discomfort with life, which we all have at our baseline, goes away while you're being a creative. So the Creative 8 was generated, and before too long, there was a book published, and that was called The Creative 8. And I now use it every single day inside of the courses that I teach. I have another course that I'm teaching now called True Voice, or Find Your True Voice. And that's the name of my other book, by the way, is Find Your True Voice. And that book and that course incorporates the Creative 8 each week. So each week there is a particular one of the Creative 8 that is spotlighted. Like this week, it's writing. So my class is in the 7th week, and they've already done art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, and now they have writing. And then next week they'll have gardening. And there's 2 more, cleaning and photography. But basically, it's the whole idea that there's nothing wrong with us to begin with. And if we use our creative skills, if we use what we came here to do, and it takes creativity even to live one more second on the planet, believe it or not. We had to be very creative, the three of us this morning, just to get this technological glitches taken care of.
So true.
And, you just have to be creative. Just to decide what to do next in your life is a creative decision and choice. So incorporating the creative aid into Find Your True Voice, I finally have a space now where what I do is I source people to really get that there is nothing wrong with them inherently. There's nothing like terrible about them per se, even if they're having a difficult time in life. And utilizing these creative influences as well as, finding our true voice is what's here. Because without our true voice, we're not really going to be able to get anything done anyways. It's still back to being really committed to communication, just like I was when I popped out. But maybe I'm 64 years older and maybe a little bit wiser and maybe a little bit more creative.
I absolutely love the doability of this plan. The idea that free choice, I have 8 choices. I only have to pick 3 of those very desirable 8 and such low barriers to entry when it's 1 minute.
1 minute.
When I used to run a lot, I'd always say, anyone can run for 2 minutes. When I was at the end of a long run and I wanted to quit, and I'd say 2 more minutes. And, of course, then it was 2 more. Then it was 2 more. But I would just say just 2 more minutes. Anybody can run for 2 minutes, 2 more. So to tell yourself, sing for 1 minute, dance for 1 minute, it seems so achievable. You don't even have to necessarily put it on your calendar. Unless, of course, that helps you get it done, then do that. Now, I have to ask you, did you know that once people started, they were really going to do more than 1 minute?
Yeah, it's fun to sing. It's fun to dance. It's fun to do art. It's fun to do music. It's fun to do drama. It's fun to cook.
Yeah.
And I think people think that if they do it for a minute, they're going to be stuck doing it for 5 or 20 minutes. And, if you don't have 5 or 20 minutes, really simply do it for a minute.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, really, close the door and dance.
And then if you're feeling it, roll with it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hey, nobody says you have to stop at a minute.
No, seriously. And if you want to do art for the next 3 hours, good for you. Go ahead. It's
I love that.
Yeah.
It's reminding me, it's speaking to the inner child, right? We have all of these opportunities as a child to draw, to play, to tap into our creativity. And I feel like as we get older, as we get into adulthood, like there is less space for that, or it's not top of mind anymore.
Or certainly not daily.
That's exactly.
It's like, I'm going to make sure I get to that on the weekend when I have time.
Exactly. That's right. And, it only does take a minute to sort of just activate that firing, the nerve firing. But the truth is, it is addicting. And there's something even if you think you're not a good singer or not a good dancer or not a good artist, that's something you just learned on the way through. That's not true in any real way. And you just dig in and have fun and create.
That's such a good point because Kaelynn's an amazing singer. She's going to say I'm pushing it here, but I would say semi-professional. I can't carry a tune to save my life, but it doesn't matter because the creative aid, it sounds to me like it's not for a goal. It's not for improvement or to make progress. It's purely, I love to sing in my car all by myself, windows closed. And it sounds like that's exactly what the creative aid's going for. It's for me and no one else and no larger goal other than my pure enjoyment in that moment.
Exactly right. They couldn't have said it better. Exactly. Yeah.
I am so happy that the work that you do, it exists because this is like, I wish I knew you 5 years ago when I was sitting in that psychiatrist's office and I remember feeling so just bad about myself and feeling like something wasn't right. And I was just itching for more of a collaboration, more guidance instead of just a prescription pad. And I remember thinking like, wow, that was so quick. Or like, he just asked like, what of these 5 do you think matches? And I remember thinking like, I really want to work through this. And I was in psychotherapy as well and talk therapy. But I just remember feeling a little bit, not well taken care of and a little bit isolated. And it was sort of like a Band-Aid. And I ended up having to empower myself to get someone else to actually wean me off about a year later.
Yeah. And that's not simple. It's not simple to come off medicine.
No.
It's it's funny. People think that it's hard to come off medicine, and they get all nervous that I would walk people off of medicine. But somehow people don't think that it's hard to get on medicine. They think it's like simple. You just get it's like people are not up in arms about starting people on laboratory medicine in order to alter their mood, but they're get very excited about the idea of coming off of medicine. It seems like it should actually be the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Right. And
Yep.
nothing is one size fits all. We're all really, really unique in our reactions to different things and different chemicals.
Yeah.
What would you say are a few alternatives to conventional mental health treatments?
I think that we really, if we can really get to the truth that if you're having a hard time, welcome to humanity. If you're having an easy time, welcome to humanity. If you have no idea where you're going, there's a little pattern here, welcome to humanity. If you got this shit put together, if you're like, you really got a plan, a project, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, welcome to humanity. And when you start getting that there's nothing, that you're not mentally ill, that in fact, thinking you're mentally ill, welcome to humanity.
Wow.
Each and every one of us is pretty certain that there's something wrong with us because we compare us to, they say our insides to their outsides. And we're pretty sure that there's something wrong or different or, about us. And so when we can go to a doctor and actually get confirmation that there's something wrong with us, we feel confirmed. Now, it's very interesting. Psychiatry is maybe one of the, if not the only subspecialty in all of medicine for which when you tell a patient that there's nothing wrong with them, they get furious. It's like, no, really, this is human. What you're going through, even if it's really painful or uncomfortable, is just human. A lot of patients don't want to hear that. They want to be able to have a label or have a syndrome that they can kind of use to relinquish responsibility for that part of their life. Now, it's not like I'm saying they're trying to shirk responsibility. If you all want to take responsibility for the stupid stuff I'm about to do today, I'd be glad to give you that responsibility. I mean, if I can just shirk it off and have it be that I'm not responsible for hurting my wife or for saying that stupid thing or for missing an appointment, I would just assume to blame that on some acronym of a diagnosis that I have. Oh, I have ADHD. That's why I didn't show up. Oh, I have bipolar disorder. That's why I pissed you off. Oh, I have social phobia. That's why I didn't talk in the room. Or that, it's like, no, you're you the whole time. You don't have any of those conditions, actually. It's, you've taken, there's no such thing as those conditions. It changes in different cultures, for instance. And, they got made up during our lifetime. They weren't really real beforehand. It's not like a broken arm where you just, no matter where you are, you have a broken arm. This is a made up facsimile of diagnoses. Now, to be honest here, and I really want to be really square about this, you might have some listeners who are pretty sure they have a diagnosis and are really happy with their therapist and their clinician and really happy with their treatment and feel like, they're so excited and they can't believe that there's no such thing and all that. What I say to those people is, by all means, stay the track. Keep doing exactly what you're doing. If you have found something that's working inside the mental health field, by all means, please, 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 please don't change horses in midstream just because of something I say. I'm not speaking to you. You have found something that works. Good for you. That's really great. I really mean it. Congratulations. More power to you. This conversation is geared for the hundreds of millions of people who don't feel that way about their psychiatric condition. And so I want to make that really clear. I'm not canceling it for the people that it is working for, but I am speaking to the hundreds of millions of people who are like, wait, who are telling the same story you just told, for instance. It's like, wait, I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel cared for. I don't feel properly diagnosed. The treatments aren't helping. Maybe they're making me worse. Yeah, all of that is really possible. And so what you can get is it's not their fault. It's not the doctor's fault. It's not the medicine's fault. It's not the insurance company's fault. It's not your parents' fault. It's not the police's fault. It's not your teacher's fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's not big money. It's not big pharma. It's not any of that. it's circumstances of life. And you have an opportunity to really step into being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I wake up every day. I don't know about you. I wake up every day. I've only been up for a few hours today. And, there's moments while I'm still in bed where life just flat out sucks. Mm-hmm. Just horrible. I'm like, well, I'm scared to get out of bed. I don't even want to get out of bed. Why am I waking up again? We go through that. Can we be comfortable with our discomfort and just realize, oh yeah, that's life coming at me again. Welcome to humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And sometimes I think it's so good when I don't have a choice. I've said before, if I were just a trust fund baby and independently wealthy, that would not be a good thing for my mental or emotional well-being, because I might never leave the house.
Right.
If I didn't have to leave the house to do a job, to earn money, to support myself, and the longer you don't leave, the harder it is to leave, mm-hmm. I may never leave. Like, it's a really good thing. I have to take care of myself.
Yeah. It's great that you do that. And, some of these things to take care of yourself, they're uncomfortable. Like, I haven't had my water yet this morning. And I realize that I'm behind. I'm usually 48 ounces of water in by this time. And I haven't had it. I haven't done my workout this morning. There's things like, okay, I'm going to get this done today. Maybe it looks less and less desirable. I'm like, I got to spend an hour working out, sweating, hurting and all that. Yikes. Oh yeah, I got to go drink a bunch of water. Our mind gets in the way of living a healthy life. And then we have to really find some purpose. Why live a healthy life inside of an unhealthy environment? What's it going to do anyways to take good care of myself? Why is it worth it to take good care of myself? Why is it worth it to love myself or to bring forth a contribution? What's in it for me to step up and make sure that I have something to communicate to folks? Why would I do that? Who cares?
I think digging into that is your answer, though. Like, if you really sit with that or journal about it, your own answers that you find from within, mm-hmm. I venture to guess that you get to an answer where you're like, oh, yeah, it really is worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sucks sometimes, but worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's not really much of a choice, as it turns out anyways. But, when you can even free yourself from that there's not much of a choice and really get to, there's some value and there's some gems I'm about to pick up today and mm-hmm. probably some gems I'm about to drop off today as well. So might as well mm-hmm. put one foot in front of another and just keep walking.
Yeah, do this thing.
Yeah, do the thing.
Do this thing called life.
Yeah, do this thing.
Welcome to humanity. I love that even as a mantra, just like, I'm feeling this way. Oh, welcome to humanity. It's inclusive and it makes you feel, validated in a way. And I think I've been having a challenge lately with, judging negative feelings or emotions and learning to hold space for that. And that just is being human. And it's neither good nor bad. It just is. And each emotion is necessary.
Right. Exactly. It's right. And we don't have much control over very much, we maybe don't have control over our next emotion that swoops us. And that's completely okay. The next emotion might be uncomfortable. I'm like, watching the movie and it's like, oh, there's a scary face. Oh, there's a happy face. Oh, there's a memory. Oh, there's a wish. It's like they just come at you, and somehow you have to metabolize them. And that's where the creativity comes in. And that's where, being with other people comes in so you can learn new things. And because being with me, me, we don't teach each other very much, actually. Me, we know everything about each other.
Yeah.
So.
I recently heard a really interesting nugget on exactly this. So when that thought comes over you and it's triggered by something environmental and it's an uncomfortable thought, we can't help that. We can, however, help the second thought. We can choose to dig in and go deeper in that uncomfortable thought, or use one of your strategies, one of the Creative 8. I love that it's a little toolbox of 8 possibilities that are low barriers to entry. Start singing a song. Distract yourself from that uncomfortable thought because the bad guy was on TV and you're starting to go to a dark place.
Yeah.
I love this. I feel so validated because everything that you listed out are like just such joyous activities.
Yeah.
Like things to think about when you're trying to switch up your mood. Dance it out, move your body. We've said that as one of our tools for anti-anxiety, I think, is like put on that favorite playlist and get dancing in your kitchen. I love that there are 7 other.
Right. And in the moment, like you don't have access to music, no problem. Dance to the rhythm in your head.
That's true. Absolutely.
Sing the song a cappella.
That's right. Exactly. You don't need a whole paint palette to be an artist. And you don't need more than maybe a pen and paper or even a computer to actually do some writing. You don't need much more than toast and ramen to actually do some cooking. You can go and should go pick some ingredients, and have a good time being creative. But these things are readily accessible. That's right. And they do, at least while they're going on, they do dislodge this experience of being stuck in the rabbit hole.
And this is a good practices for those of us trying to heal perfectionism. It's this idea of like being creative just as is and not judging the creation, just get into it.
Right.
Not with the goal of becoming a professional singer or a backup dancer.
Or I need this painting to be actually good. Like it can be anything.
It can be anything. Right. Exactly. Yep. It's a good slap at perfectionism, which again, we all have our own spectrum of perfectionism that we shoot for. We all think that's what school taught us to do, is that 100% is great. Yay, 100%. But the truth is, and that 97% isn't 100%, and I should have got those other 3%. We've gotten that, drilled into us from early childhood. And, even perfectionism is like if you're headed towards perfectionism without having any intention of ever having gotten there, then there's nothing wrong with perfectionism. I mean, that's what you want. You want to look towards what would this look like if it was perfect, and then just realize there's no chance of ever getting to be there. You just use that as your benchmark and, what to point your ship towards.
I like that. Because my rational mind knows that perfect is unachievable. But the inner gremlin in me saying anything less is public failure. Judgeable, open season. Then there's this disconnect. And then I get to the point of, well, why even start? Because it's doomed before I've even started.
Right.
So I'm enjoying hearing what you're saying about framing it as, since the mind saying perfect's not achievable, and I know and deeply believe that, I can say not achievable, but it's a picture of where we're sailing, not the actual destination, just the direction.
Yes.
Okay, that seems less intimidating.
Right, like heading to the sun. You're not gonna get to the sun.
So, quick question for you, Dr. Fred. If there was one thing that we could immediately assist ourselves when we're feeling out of balance, what would that be?
The thing that I like to think is there's a couple words that get used in this area that I think are undervalued and not given as much attention as they should. And those words are a pause, like just hold for a second. The world has us on a moving sidewalk all the time. We think we gotta go, 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 go. What do you mean stop? Go, go. Don't stop. You can't stop. Go, go. Stop, pause. And just take a breath, just stop. Like, okay. And then reset. The next word that I think is really, really doesn't get enough attention that goes with pausing is the word listening. So, when you listen to the world around you and you actually listen to the people that you're with and you're actually listening for what's being called for. In my Find Your True Voice book, which I have right here, in that book, you have the magic ingredient of finding your true voice is actually listening. Finding your true voice isn't blurting out what's the next thing on your top of mind. I hate my mother-in-law. That's not going to get you anywhere. Or I hate the last, to a political figure or something. That's not your true voice. True voice takes into consideration the entire framework of what's going on in our life and then speaks to what is being called for to move that conversational needle forward. So without listening, we're not going to be able to bring our true voice anyways. And without listening, we're not going to know what really is being called for. So I would say pausing and listening when we feel like acutely out of balance are the two things that I would prescribe at this point. Certainly, what I wouldn't prescribe is going to a mental health professional and starting some medication.
Pause and listen.
Pause and listen.
That's my takeaway as far as my actionable items that I'm going to implement.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing for me to hear because, believe me, I can be a little whirling dervish at times. Pause and listen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Breathe. Sometimes breathing.
Yes,
Yeah.
Definitely remembering to breathe.
Do you have a little wellness tool for our listeners, a favorite type of breath work? For example, ours is square breathing.
Mm-hmm. I like Wim Hof breathing. It's 18 minutes, if you're going to do all 4 rounds, it's somewhere between 18 and 19 minutes. It's a lot of fun. It's easy. It's sort of a fake meditation, if you will. And when you're done, he says you get access to your brainstem. So it's easy rounds of, in through your nose, out through your mouth is how I do it. And then just coming in touch with, wow, this crazy thing called life. In fact, and when we're done with this podcast, I'll probably do a little run of Wim Hof right away.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Is there any other nugget of wisdom that you would like to share with our listeners today before we wrap up?
Look, it's crazy out there. It's crazy. It is. It's crazier than ever. It's hard to stay sane. It feels like we're on the brink of insanity. The future is not clear. And if we don't say anything, it's pretty grim. There's pretty grim future, And this idea that when you're feeling bad, the tendency is to think, okay, there's something wrong with me because I feel horrible. I would love for our listeners to dislodge that from themselves. If you feel horrible, that does not in any way suggest that there's something wrong with you. It's possible that you feeling horrible is a great indicator of what's actually going on in your or our life, and that feeling horrible is the proper response. In other words, we don't blame a log for burning in a fire. Like, what are you doing? Burning. Like, well, because it's hot, dude. I'm in a fire, It's like we don't blame a log for. Therefore, be careful and be compassionate, accepting, and forgiving of yourself. That if you're uncomfortable, it's entirely likely that there's all sorts of things going on that are contributing to that discomfort. And if you can get to those, well, then maybe you can sit and breathe, or maybe you can actually read a book, or actually do one of the creative 8, or actually take a bath or take a walk. Nature can be a really great equalizer, a really great resetter.
Yes, it can.
A sweet walk in looking at one tree or one bush or one plant or animals, or if you have a stream or an actual forest or a river near you, those are really great spaces to remind you what's really going on in the bigger world, because we are getting sucked into this pixelated screen pretty rough.
Oh, yes,
days.
sir. Yes, sir, we are. We are getting addicted as it was designed.
As it was. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the antidote to our screen addiction is a little walk in nature. Reconnect, disconnect.
A walk in nature is not a bad one.
Yeah.
Not a bad one. And you don't have to go all the way to the ocean. I mean, if you got an ocean around the corner, good for you.
Yeah, jealous.
But you don't have to get to the ocean. That's the same thing with the artist.
Aha.
Yeah, you don't have to create a masterpiece. Just take a walk.
Ooh, we're full circle here. That is validating. You don't have to be near the ocean. You don't have to create a masterpiece. Just get started.
That's right.
Amazing.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, before we wrap up, we wanted to make the Soulfull Society aware that Dr. Fred is also so kindly gifting you a 30-minute consultation with him. This usually costs $200, but you, our dear listeners, are getting it for free. And PDF copies of 2 of his amazing books, Find Your True Voice and Creative 8, Healing Through Creativity and Self-Expression. If you want to learn more from Dr. Fred, you can also join his Facebook group called True Voice Community.
Exactly.
And we'll link everything in the show notes for this episode.
Yeah, and if your listeners are really into what I'm talking about, and I really am asking for people, who are like, oh yeah, I want to learn more about this True Voice. I'm going to send you a copy of this book, actually the book itself, even more than the PDF. If you just kind of go to findyourtruevoicebook.com, and sign up there. Then I'll send a copy in. If you're in the United States, I'll even pay for shipping and get that to you. You know, some people are like they're in China and all of a sudden it costs me $50 to send them a book. And I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right.
But if you're in the United States, I can send you the book and pick up shipping.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh my gosh. So many gifts.
Yeah.
I mean, we have tangible ones and untangible ones.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So much wisdom. Wow.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed our conversation today, Dr. Fred. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom with us and with our listeners. I'm taking away my Creative 8. I'm going to implement my 3+ minutes a day. I'm also going to pause and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And when I feel myself spiraling, I'm going to say out loud, situationally permitting, welcome to humanity.
Exactly.
Come on, lady. Welcome to humanity.
Exactly. Beautiful. Well done. Perfect. You walk away with that. You've done well. That's good. That's a good day. Yep.
No, I really like that one, especially if I feel like maybe I'm getting a little whiny, even in my own head. Welcome to humanity.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go with welcome to F in humanity just to get over it, but it's welcome to.
Yeah.
There were actually a couple slightly longer versions in my head, but I wasn't going to, embellish. But in my head, I will.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Fred.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening, everyone. If you haven't already, hit that follow button for more wellness goodness every Thursday. So thank you so much. And we look forward to your feedback, listeners. Please feel free to DM us or email us if you need to find more of Dr. Fred.
Thanks for listening. Peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light.
The Soulfull of Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers. Soulfull.